forget to really speak near the microphone because like that it's not working. I don't know why. Maybe a microphone will not work.
Welcome, everyone. It's 3:30, so we are on time to start this new panel about gender equality and culture. What's the title? Culture in Europe. Where are we at? For gender equality. So my name is Maud Gary. I work for an organization based in Bordeaux, in France, obviously. And the organization is called Le Labat. And Le Labat, we are specialized on internationalization of cultural and touristical projects on European fundings. So we train organization who wants to have access to European fundings, Creative Europe, Erasmus, and so on. And we work closely with the people we train also, and we work on the intercultural aspect. And most important, we are also involved in many European projects. So we are also producers and co-producers on European projects and on several topics, but some of the topics are about gender equality. So we are a team of 8 people. Every one of us has been working in the cultural industry before, so I've been working 15 years in the music industry, where I designed and launched a program for women entrepreneurs in music, which is called MEWEM. And Corinne talked before about this program, so it's a program that had European fundings and that was in partnership with Le Labat. So now today I'm very pleased to moderate this panel because of my 2 favorite topics, which are Europe and gender equality. Today, we have this question, this big question, where are we at regarding the place of women? We can say also of diversity in culture. So we won't have the answer at the end of the panel, but here there are some very interesting projects that will be presented, and I was very honored to be part of the panel because when I saw all of your profiles, I saw that there are already very concrete actions that are given. But we will try to go on this subject, which is not easy subject, as we may know, all of us. The news today shows that it's still a big issue on the international level, so we have a lot of things to do in culture. Sometimes we think that it's really a very advanced sector, but I think many of you know that in culture we have still large room for improvement regarding the place of women. The place of women regarding sexual harassment, of course, but also the career of women. So this is where we are today. We will talk about the presence of women, mostly women entrepreneurs, self-employed artists in the cultural industry. So when we prepared this panel, first I thought that I may present to you these people, but it was really puzzling for me because it's impossible in a nutshell and just in one sentence to tell you everything what they did before they arrived today, because they've been working on this topic since many years. So we decided together that they accepted the challenge to present to you their work and who they are with a presentation, 7 minutes. So each of them will take the microphone and present themselves to you. And after that, we will enter into the more rough questions on what can we do today. Before I give, so just very quick, we have three Annas. Anna Ketzorek from the European Commission. She will give us a global overview of figures in Europe, which is very important. It's the basis for any action, so it's important to have this global context before. Then Anna Serner from Sweden, who worked a long time in the Swedish film industry. Then Anna Ockman, who did a lot of European projects. So she will tell you about this regarding female entrepreneurship. Maxime, who is a serial entrepreneur, who launched the platform which is called remixed.co. He will explain everything about this, and who is an auto-declared feminist. So I'm very happy to welcome you here. And Marianne Speer, who tackles taboo, to my eyes, is the question of the financing. Where is the money for the women? So there are a lot of tools, but there is also money over there. So how to get to this money? So she will explain us her work on that. And before I end my presentation, I was just a bit curious on who you are. So I would like to know in the audience, who of you are entrepreneurs or self-employed? Okay. Who are students? Who works in institutions? Okay. And who is else? So there is a question, how many men? But we can see here there are some men. And we will talk about this later also. Stay tuned. So first of all, European Commission. Here's your turn.
Yes, thank you very much, Maud. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Ketzorek. I work in the European Commission in the Director General for Education and Culture, in the unit dealing with the cultural policy of the European Union. And I was asked to give you a brief context overview of EU policy and programs, and also some figures. Where are we today on the cultural, on gender equality in culture? I would like to ask for my presentation. It would be very helpful. It's very, I don't see it on the screen. Huh, that's tricky. Okay. Yes, now. Yes. Very good. Okay. So, yes, where are we? What can we do? What should we change? Well, first of all, you should know that in the European Union, there are very, very good circumstances right now to advance the topic of gender equality. It's the first time ever that we have the female president of the European Commission, and actually this very brave woman made Union of Equality one of her first and most important political priorities. And it's the first time that we have a separate commissioner who deals with the portfolio on equality. It has never happened before that one person was working only on that topic. And this is the lady on the top right, whom you can see, Commissioner Helena Dalli from Malta. Luckily enough, the commissioner in charge of culture in the bottom left is also a woman who also cherishes the topic of gender equality. And on top of that, she's also the commissioner for research. And finally, now we have a female president of the European Parliament. It's not the first time in history, but it has been a while. So we have 4 ladies now leading us and paving us the way to improve things. And the things are changing. They have changed quite a lot since Ursula von der Leyen has become the president of the Commission. Now, Maud, you said culture, it's a cool, nice sector. Is there really a problem in culture when it comes to gender equality? Some people would say, well, no, you're so like advancing, innovative. Where is the place for discrimination? Well, there is a lot of place of discrimination, and there are a lot of different aspects where there is no equality between women and men. Just a few figures from the global, let's say, art scene. Nobel Prize in Literature, awarded 113 times. Until now, only 16 women had the pleasure to get this prize. In the 93 history of Oscars, only 3 women have been awarded a film directing prize. And when you look at the top 100 auction most expensive results in 2019, you will see that only 4 of them are women artists. In 2020, it has improved. It was 11 women and 89 men. So there is some positive trend, if you wish. Now, what are the gender gaps? I have a very interesting graph here from the world of architecture, which I think is interesting, especially given the place we're in. So if you can see in every single age group, there is a disproportion in earnings. And interestingly enough, the more you advance in the career, the wider these gaps becomes. Why is it? Probably because women have less access to leadership position. They really have the glass ceiling, which is very difficult to break. Here I have a graph which I will not spend too much time on, but it basically illustrates that women do have less access to decision-making and leadership position in different sectors of culture. The same goes to a prestigious position. By prestigious, I mean the creative ones. For example, the male, interestingly, even though there are less male dancers in general, most of the top choreographers are men. They have the privilege to go on the, how is it called, the glass escalator, that basically brings them up much quicker. They can advance their career much quicker in a sector which is actually more populated by women. There is also job segregation that I mentioned. The women who graduate from the same filière as men, for example, in audiovisual industry, tend to go and work in marketing, in human resources, even they are qualified to work as sound engineers or directors, but these jobs are normally reserved to men. Finally, women get less visibility and recognition. The creative output of women is valued less, and they have less space in the permanent exhibitions in the most prestigious exhibiting spaces. They have, of course, less temporary exhibitions as well. On the right, some examples from the literature world and the most prestigious literature awards, not only the Nobel Prize, but others, also the EU Prize on Literature, unfortunately, have been awarded in the majority to men. Now, what the EU can do to change this? We can, of course, work to advance gender equality in all the spheres of life, but when it comes to culture, we can encourage member states to introduce some policy measures and also to provide funding for interesting projects that contribute to advancing gender equality. When it comes to policy, it is important that you understand that the European Union does not have the competence on culture. This, in other words, means that we can do actions, we can perform actions only when the member states ask us to do so. And in the last years, indeed, the member states asked that the European Commission looks into gender equality, and this was one of our 6 priorities in the framework for policy action on culture, which is called Work Plan for Culture. And the member states told the Commission, look, these are the key challenges that we think exist in the cultural and creative sectors. Please have a look at them. What are they? So, stereotypes and sexual harassment. This informal, cool environment in the cultural industry actually creates very favorable conditions to hidden hierarchies, which is very fertile ground for abuse and mobbing and harassment. Second, underrepresentation in leadership and decision-making position, the glass ceiling that I mentioned earlier. The difference in earnings and income. Unequal access to creation and to production resources. And finally, the fact that women have more, still much more, unpaid care duties, which then has an impact on their work-life balance, on their health insurance and social benefits. So, the first step that the Commission did when the Member States asked us to work on the topic is we commissioned a study on gender gaps in the cultural and creative sectors, which I encourage you to have a look if you're interested in finding what are the different circumstances in different cultural and creative sectors which specifically drive the gender disparities. Because situation is different in circus, it's different in architecture and in the audiovisual. So, so you can have a very interesting read in this report, also to better understand the mechanics and the systemic problems that exist. Just to mention briefly, the study has identified that stereotypes are the underlying cause of all the discriminations. In cultural and creative sectors in particular, women are not seen as creators. They do not have the creating power. They are rather seen as muses or like inspiring vessels for the creativity of men. They can be performers, okay, but they have to look good and they have to be young. So there is this importance of physical appearance and the stigma of age. Secondly, the working conditions in the cultural and creative sectors require very strong personal and professional networks. If you want to exist, if you want to be recognized, and therefore earn some money, you have to have networks. And to develop, to build those networks, you need time and you need financial resources. Otherwise, how do you do it? How do you pay the babysitter if your colleagues meet in the evening and you just cannot go? So your network is not being built. Moreover, in cultural and creative industry, music, for example, live performance, there's a lot of travel involved, touring. This all makes it more difficult for women if they are not offered, for example, the childcare facilities when they are going on a tour. In addition, the common working practices in the cultural and creative sectors are such as informal networking. There's a lot of informal work, there's a lot of freelancing, there are a lot of self-employed people who work on a project-based basis. They work with tight deadlines, they have erratic working hours, so of course it's more difficult for women who have children or other carrying obligations to succeed. And then there are, of course, the precarious organizational structures, unorthodox working conditions, very high competition, which then brings this need for self-promotion, flexibility, mobility, touring, and networking, which is, of course, makes it more difficult for women to succeed. So this is what we have identified as the obstacles, and this was also confirmed by the structured dialogue with the civil society, who basically pinpoint to the same problems in the cultural and creative sectors. And finally, the Commission also supported the work of the member states' experts. 22 member states nominated experts coming from the cultural and creative industry, but especially from the ministries of culture, and they were supposed to exchange experience and do some peer learning activities. So they met 6 times between 2019 and 2021, and the output of the work was the report on gender equality in the cultural and creative sectors, which I also encourage you to look, because it goes a bit deeper than the previous report. It puts forward the recommendations to the policymakers, to the cultural and creative industry, to the education sector, how to improve the situation when it comes to the key gender gaps. And the report also provides 250 good practices identified across Europe, across different sectors, which can be a source of inspiration elsewhere. The report brings a series of general recommendations which apply to everyone. Basically, gender mainstreaming, gender budgeting are very important. Take the gender dimension, gender perspective in your planning, in all the policies and actions that you perform. Collect good data. There is no good policy making. You cannot measure the impact of your actions if you do not have data. And there is a lot of lacunae, how do you say? A lot of gaps when it comes to data on gender equality. Of course, ensure gender equality in the workplace, provide secure space for women, for men, where everyone is respected. Use gender-sensitive language. In many languages, you need to say créateur, créatrice. You need to say intervenant, intervenante, which is not always the case. And the language is what shapes our perception of the world. That is why it is so important to change the way we see things. Then, of course, we have the issue of intersectionality, which is very important. So also take into account different factors that can be additional reason for discrimination. Another very important thing is to involve men. In whatever we do, when we talk about gender equality, men have to be on board. We have to all understand that we are all allies. I mean, it is in the interest of everyone that women and men are treated alike. That, you know, our creative power has the same value and the same opportunities. So always try to bring men at the table. And then there are specific recommendations which apply to the gender gaps that I mentioned earlier, but I think we can skip this. The second part where the EU can help is funding. The EU has quite a lot of money, different programs, which can be used in culture and creative sectors. But the most important program dedicated to culture is called Creative Europe. And the previous edition of the program, which ended in 2020, basically supported over 35 projects dedicated to promoting gender equality. For example, MEWEM, for example, Key Change that was mentioned earlier, Walmart's, Feminist Futures, and many, many others. Center Stage, which is also led by a Swedish partner. The new program, which is now in force, actually has seen the budget almost double in comparison to the previous one, and it's sort of thanks to the COVID crisis. It has brought some good, as the culture and creative sectors were amongst the most heavily impacted by the crisis. It basically allowed us to have more money to distribute in the sectors. And this program will now ensure the gender mainstreaming. It's a so-called cross-cutting priority. So gender equality has to be taken into account in all the applications, and the applicants who explain how they are going to promote gender equality get a bit more points in the evaluations. So yes, this is where we are. We've done quite a lot, but a lot remains to be done, especially when it comes to the data collection. We really need to improve our data across different member states. We also have to look at the impact of digitization to make sure that there is no digital divide between women and men, and of course look into intersectionality. Thank you. I think that's all for now.
Thank you, Anna. Now, we knew that it could not be wrapped into only 7 minutes, so it was important to have also detailed info. So many thanks for this tremendous work that has been done by the European Commission since many years now. So it's important for operators to act on those figures. So now I will give you the floor, Anna Serner. The time that Julien launches your presentation, and so you will explain us who you are and what you did.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me be here. I am I just quit my job. I think power should be circulated. So after 10 years, I resigned to give my space to someone else. But I was the head of the Swedish Film Institute, which is like the CNC in France. Anyone here is in film business? No? Good for you. Not enough money. So what I did when I started at the Swedish Film Institute was really to see what can I do as a leader. And I think everyone should look at yourself, and if you are not the leader yourself, ask important but bitchy questions to the leaders, how they work with gender equality. The Swedish Film Institute is funding films, the development and production of film, And I'm a lawyer from the background. I've been to film school, but I'm a lawyer from the background. And I found that when we were doing selection, we say 90% no. It was really a lot of gut feeling from the decision makers. And as a lawyer, you are not very comfortable in, I feel, everyone knows, he has a great potential. So I said, let's look at our assignment and see what we can do about this. Because at the same time, everyone was whining about the quality of the Swedish films. So the assignment is to fund development and production of valuable Swedish film. And valuable is translated into quality. So I said, so what is quality? And I took my people and I brought in the industry, and we tried to make the decision-making less subjective and more objective. So I demanded from my decision makers, when they proposed films to be funded, that they argue around why is this a potentially really, really good film. So we, we picked these 3 words: relevance, why is this film anything that anyone wants to see today? And the answer can be that it is really touchy, it's about the love and death, and it's always relevant, or it's a political theme that is relevant, or it could be anything, but you just have to argue about it, and which was the big difference. I demanded that they describe what was unique with this film. It hasn't to be really unique, just a little bit unique. So we haven't seen it before, and I wanted to know in what way we could be certain that if we put 1.5 million euros into a film, that the audience got to see it. So we scrutinized the production team. Everyone came to me and said, why Anna? This was in 2011, and one of my first things I did was going to Cannes Film Festival, and all the reporters came to me and they said, why Anna, don't we have any films in competition? So I said, okay, we are obviously poor in quality. How do we raise quality? So my strategy was the quality criteria to be sure that we actually gave the right projects money, working then with gender equality and a wider diversity to make sure that we took the whole talent base into consideration. So that was really my strategy. And as I usually say, is that strategies is for any change management is that you do your SWOT. What is your weaknesses and strength? And we had 26% women funded, so that was a weakness if we wanted to take the whole talent base into consideration. I set a goal, 50-50 over time. It was then translated into 50-50 by 2020, you might have seen. I said, let's measure over time, not every year, because we make too few decisions. So I took 3 years periods. The strategy was to stop talking, start acting. It's really easy to just look at the problem and say, yes, we have a problem. But for every problem that people said, I wanted to have an action. So I made an action plan and I gave it a budget, because no change is ever made without investment. And the action plan was really very short to be very accurate. So I said the most important thing is that we count, not once a year, but every time we make decisions. So we started counting once a month, which meant that like in April, when we revealed the numbers, not in every film, but you know, if we had 20 films, how many percent went to women? And if we already in April were very low, we could be proactive. And then I could say, why is that? And people said, yeah, because women have harder times to get fully financed films. And then we could say, okay, let's launch a special scheme for only women, or let's take bigger budget films only for women, or something. People were very pissed off with me, the ones that used to get the money. And then to have role models, so we made transparent what women have been successful during all times, because history tends to erase the women. And if you haven't seen anyone do it before, it's very hard to be the first one. You know, Gina Davis Institute, they have the slogan, if you can see it, you can be it. And I really believe in that. And then the last one is knowledge, the numbers, but also doing in-depth analysis of different things. The last one we did with me was comparing women of age and women of color with other women. And it was a very interesting result. And of course, the women of age and women of color met so many more obstacles than white women, white young women. So the effects of me saying this in 2011 was that everyone realized that the money wanted women, so they started giving us the women. I don't know how much this says to you, but in 4-5 years' time, Sweden, very, very small country, we are half the size of Paris, getting 52 films into the main festivals is unheard of, and 42% of them were women. And this year in Cannes, 2022, exactly 10 years after I had the microphone under my nose asking, how come Sweden is so bad? We had 3 directors in competition. We won the Golden Palm, which has only happened 10 times ever before. And the talent prize went to the woman who was in the official program 2 years ago under the COVID, so they gave her a special award because it's an amazing film. And so we had 4 directors in the official program, 1 white man, 1 white woman, 2 men, 1 from Iran and 1 from Egypt. So the inclusion and the gender equality really gave us new voices. So yeah, that's what I did.
So thank you for sharing us this story, and
Merci.
report also the numbers that are so important, and it seems easy actually, but it was so efficient, and so bravo for this. Now we will continue to travel to Poland now, to Anna Oshman, who will tell us about her ONG and her European project for women.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm president of Ataya Foundation, the organization, non-profit and non-governmental organization established in 2006 in Poland. We are placed in the south of Poland, near the border with the Czech Republic, not in the capital. The organization was established mostly by female artists and creatives. I graduated Academy of Fine Arts. I'm a painter and a designer. So the gender equality topics are an important part of our work from the beginning, and we are trying to do it in practice. That's why we are working with the projects on the national and international level, focus on this topic. I listed some of them here. We also conduct some researches and developing some reports to learn more and to understand better the situation of the gender equality in my country, in the European, in our part of Europe, and to compare it with the other countries. And we are also engaged in some international researches or expert bodies the topic. It was a brief introduction. And now I was asked to tell you a little bit about the mentoring program titled Women in Art, WIN Art. but I would like to start with a very brief elements which are important to understand what we are doing. Some of them were already mentioned by Anna. So only 3 main factors I would like to list here. The first, that culture and creative industries are dominated by freelancers, by self-employed people, by micro and small enterprises. I think some of you already know this project-based style of working and irregular working hours. So this is one reason we started with the mentoring program for women. And the second factor is that women have difficulties to join male networks of influence. And I think it is a little bit mentioned by our second Anna. I'm sorry to say it like that. And the third factor is that culture and creative industries, there are many subsectors and many branches in culture and creative industries. This is why we decided to work, to establish the program to work with young people. It was at the beginning, individually. So in 2015, we started with a mentoring program for emerging artists. Most of them, they were women, but it was originally for men and the women. And we just wanted to work with a gap between the university knowledge and the needs of the labor market. But after 2 years, we understood that we need a special mentoring program just for female artists and creatives. And it was the beginning of Women in Art. What we are doing, we are trying to support the personal and professional development of female artists and creatives by developing their competencies and their knowledge to enable them to navigate better in the art market and to develop their portfolios. Also in the international context. We are working with some trainings and focus on developing the competencies and the knowledge and hard and soft skills. It includes a lot of elements like knowledge about the legal aspects like copyrights or intellectual property, about the financing, about entrepreneurial skills, and a lot of with the soft skills like self-confidence, like resilience, like motivation, like work-life balance, etc., because it is a very important topic in that case. And one of the most important elements of the program is networking, both inside the sector, or the sectors, cultural and creative sectors, but also outside of the sectors. So in practice, how does it work? Arteria opens call every year, usually at the autumn. And then we start with our mentees from the preparing some kind of initial maps of the needs, of their needs, to match them better with their mentors. And later they are taking part in the individual and group sessions, and also they have opportunity to take part in some kind of trainings or workshops. And and it usually is about 1 year, sometimes much quicker, but usually about a year. And we are all the time we are working on changing the program because we would like to match it with the needs of the labor market and with the economic situation. And we usually use the European programs to develop the new tools or use good practices from the other countries or from the other organizations. And here there are some examples. All these projects were co-founded by Erasmus Plus program, and they were really helpful for us to improve the program every year. And thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Just a small question, Anna. Do you know the number of women you helped through this program since 2015?
In 2000, yeah, it depends on the year. It's usually about 20 women now, because everything is about the financing, because it is usually, this is not a project. This is a program run by Arteria, and it is funded by our partners and sponsors. So, yeah.
Thanks. So now Maxime Ruzniewski, am I right, who will present us his project too.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Maxime Ruzniewski. I was trained also as a lawyer 15 years ago, I think so. I've started my career as a journalist, and then I've worked for the Ministry of Women's Rights. Najat Vallaud-Belkacem, I was her advisor. She was also the government spokesperson in 2012. Then I've launched my own production company, Pardi, dealing with gender equality issues. And I've launched also, as a volunteer, la Fondation des Femmes, which is the main association helping other associations fighting for gender equality and fighting against violence against women. In 2020, I've founded Remixed. So Remixed is a digital platform, and I'm really sorry because we didn't have enough time to translate the presentation, so I'm going to speak in French for this presentation. I think you have the translation maybe for English people. Donc oui, j'ai...
So I established Remix in 2020, which is at a crossroads, as you know, that I have been working for the ministry in charge of women's rights and a producer for 8 years. And I have been wondering what I could do in order to use my competence in audiovisual production to continue with my commitment in favor of women. I understood that this commitment required a sort of pedagogical tool. My obsession as a feminist, if I may put it this way, is to attract men and women who are not necessarily convinced by that equality. You know, in the population there are 20% of people convinced by equality between men and women. 20% of them also are completely disparate. I mean, I don't think that I'm going to convince them. And then you have the rest of the people who say, well, I'm in favor of equality, but yet they're not doing anything at home because they just say it's our bits. And it's precisely those people I am targeting. And that's for those people that I created Remix. It's a digital platform because I am convinced that we are at a moment where we have a whole generation demonstrating in favor of climate. You have the Me Too phenomenon. I am thinking of this so-called Z generation, not willing to wait for 100 years for equality to just become a reality. So why a digital platform to deal with these issues? After all, there are plenty of training organizations intervening in companies. Well, you know, I am convinced that it's better to be able to express oneself freely. You can access it anonymously, and also law evolves very quickly. We need to very quickly upgrade our platform. I mean, to take into account the legislative changes. For example, recently there has been laws in France that in fact changed the different rights, and so we need to be able to very quickly adjust our platform to changes in legislation. Why focus on these issues? First of all, we need to prevent risks by fostering engagement. I mean, public organizations, or public as well as private organizations, they need to be able to attract people who are willing to work in environment which are inclusive. And also, Browns are very much interested. So people tend to say, well, I am now proud to say that nobody enters the company, joins the company without having some, sort of awareness raising to harassment or abuse. So, generally when you join a company, people are told about how to fight fire in the company, or if there is an alert, and so on and so forth. So now people also have to be informed about the harassment-related issues, and it also helps reduce the turnover. And we are and McKinsey, you must know this this company. They have demonstrated that it also helps enhance productivity. I have created a social organization, and but it's also good for companies who are working in favor, trying to generate, I would say, profit. It's also group mixity is also good for growth. Well, I have been talking about equality and pedagogy. What is good about Remix is that we've created a serial known as Paleo and Co. You will certainly see an extract on sexism. We do think that with humor, well, we are not joking about these serious things, but we are convinced that via humor, humoristic presentation, that we would be able to actually bring people who are in gray area to join, in fact, this process. So this remix, which we call, in fact, Paleo and Co., is presented in this way, with the slides, and we remind people about the legal provisions. And in this way, we also improve the Paleo and Co. Serial via games to get workers to be aware of the figures of what is happening in the companies. And at the end of the process, in fact, the workers understand the difference between sexual aggression, harassment, and sexist behavior. And we then ask people whether they have ever experienced a sexist situation, and the companies can have a sort of a dashboard per gender, per age bracket, and an idea about the mixity. That's the dashboard I have been referring to.
Regardez un extrait de
I suggest we now look at this prevention of sexism on our remix.co. You have access to all of these themes in English as well for the non-French speakers. All the content is translated into English. And if we were to act to prevent sexism in the workplace, to create awareness on the subject, memos and quizzes, what percentage of women are confronted with sexism in their place of work? Consider it negative, 93%. And here I conclude with the progression of sales of pottery in the Silex. It's great. They're going to be really amazed. For the boss, Grog and Pyrex is not enough. You need to impose yourself. It's easy for you to do this. You're a male. You have respect automatically. I have to do two things twice as hard to be considered. I've been working here for 10 years, and he continues to ask me to make coffee or compliment my animal skin. Well, they're not using to working with females with responsibility. Well, I don't think that sexism is on the edge of being extinguished in the workplace. So let's do some surveys. What would be your action if you were confronted with a sexist behavior in your organization? And then open-ended questions, a story or proposition to share regarding the prevention of sexism in our organization. What could we do? In less than 10 minutes, connect yourself to the Remix platform to inform yourself and to be able to report these activities anonymously. So that was for Remixed. Thank you. Thank you, Maxime. Now, last but not least, Marianne.
Thank you, Maud. I'm waiting for my presentation. My name is Marianne Spier. I have two companies. I have a consulting agency advising international companies how to transform their business and also transform internally. And I will focus on my other company called fem-start.com, focused on bridging the gap in funding for female entrepreneurs. First, I want to talk about the numbers. When we talk about female entrepreneurship, when I started with this mission to bridge the gap in funding, this was in 2015, when we were organizing competitions for female entrepreneurs, and we discovered that in the Netherlands, it was so difficult for them to find funding for their business. And this could be tech entrepreneurs, but also cultural entrepreneurs. We saw that in every industry regarding female entrepreneurs in the Netherlands. So we did some research and we checked globally what is happening regarding entrepreneurship. And what we saw is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs. I traveled to more than 40 nations, worked for several UN agencies, and encountered also a lot of female entrepreneurs struggling with the same issue. There are 252 million female entrepreneurs in the world. But if you look at women that are trying to raise funding, that are women who have an intention to build a company and have a startup, we see that globally only 15,379 are able to raise funding. And are startups, but only 1,100 raised funding in 2020. I'm not talking about 10 years ago. So 2020, only 1,100 women were able to raise funding for their business when we're talking about raising capital and raising funding to really impact. And of course, I'm from the Netherlands, so I'm going to talk about our own project. And we digged and we found the numbers that 672,380 entrepreneurs are women in the Netherlands. We have 450 women that have startups. These are women, and I'm not only talking about tech, but women who are actively trying to find funding for their business, to scale up their business. And if you look at the number, there were only 11 of them who were able to raise funding. This is 0.8% in the Netherlands. I'm not talking about a third world country. This is the Netherlands. And sometimes we think it's only the Netherlands, but if you look at it globally, only 3% of women entrepreneurs have received funding. And of course, I'm talking mostly about the private sector. And this number hasn't changed in the last 10 years. So the last 10 years, only 3% of women entrepreneurs have received funding. There's a discussion going on, and there have been a lot of talks about this, how to help women, but there has not been a solution yet. So I've talked to a lot of professors, like from everybody I could talk to, the governments, cultural institutions. How can we change this? So we created a platform called FemStart. It is very easy to find. It is free. And this platform is focused on how to raise funding. for female entrepreneurs, because what we discovered is that one of the reasons that it is difficult is that mostly financial institutions have a masculine tone of voice. A lot of women entrepreneurs, when I talk to them, they even receive letters from banks or financial institutions with Mr., not even Miss. So there is where it already goes wrong. So the tone of voice makes it difficult for women entrepreneurs to find the right information. We have a mentoring platform. It's an artificial intelligence platform where we mentor female entrepreneurs freely. They receive 3 consultations, and it could be about how to raise funding, but also about how to design or brand themselves as an entrepreneur, create new business models, because during COVID we discovered that this was the biggest problems for female entrepreneurs. I only had 7 minutes, so I really, so a lot of times we have the platform. It's an educational platform, it's an AI platform, it helps you, it guides you, it's with videos, you can go on the website. We also have a mentoring platform, it's all free. We teach you about grants, we teach you about, you can learn about crowdfunding, how to raise crowdfunding for your business. You learn about venture capital. You learn about bootstrapping. How do I manage my business if I do not have enough money? There are role models sharing their expertise, and through quizzes you can help. I have a really nice testimony from one of the female entrepreneurs who contacted me and said, Marianne, I do not know where to start. I have a business, nobody's interested in funding my business, but I will apply and join the platform and try to find out how to raise funding for my business. And after she did that, she was able to raise 300,000 euros. So that is a really nice testimony about how this could work. But there are also other ways and tips for female entrepreneurs, and we see that it works. One tip is personal branding. How do you brand yourself? I know that there are not only entrepreneurs here, but this is for everybody. Even if you work somewhere, the institution, or you are a student, you have to focus on what is the strategy? What do you want to achieve with your business, your company, your job, or how do you want to present yourself? The second thing that is very important for women and women entrepreneurs or women in arts is to build your network. I'm in the board of the Van Gogh Museum, but I'm also in the board of a family foundation where we fund entrepreneurs, especially in culture, who have talent. And what we see is the plan to apply is amazing, but then there is not a network to think about how can I bring it further than where I am now. And also, especially in the arts, it's important to look outside of your bubble and try to collaborate with different industries to show and present your art and build networks with organizations that you would usually not be in contact with. The third tip I would like to, this has already been said by Anna, is do your homework. Find data, find the right data when you want to present and bring your art project or your business to a higher level, or find the funding. Present the data that can help you and bring your business to a higher level. If you have a team, if you have a business, a team, but discuss also and ask about the funding challenges you're going to with them, and maybe they have ideas how to bring your business to a higher level. I discovered it myself. I have a team of 7 with my consulting and with FemStart 5 people working, and we sit like every 3 months and discuss about what opportunities, and sometimes it's even the intern who comes with an idea how to monetize the projects and bring them further. Of course, the grants and the subsidies, we heard the story from of Creative Europe and all these texts that you can apply. But crowdfunding, especially women entrepreneurs, are very successful in raising funds for their business. I have a friend who approached me to help her with creating a solar lamp, and she did not know how to start. I told her, first start with, do people know you? Are you a brand? Because if people do not know you, they do not know where to find you. And we helped her create the crowdfunding platform, and within 3 days, she was able to raise 100,000 for her business, and she was thinking about 30,000. So sometimes you have to follow these steps to really build your business. And the last one is pitch. We've all been pitching here. You hear all the stories. It's all a pitch about what we are doing. And I want to encourage you, even if you're a student in art, start practicing. What are the 3 things? What is so unique about your product? What is the added value? And how will you be able to network? And also be very clear about how much money do you need. And do not think small. I've been talking to a lot of female entrepreneurs, and then they say, I need 300,000. But then I ask them, what do you really need? And then they say, well, I need 1 million. So I said, start with that. And do not be shy about that, because that is also something women, especially in the arts, are struggling with. But the men are not shy about that, so do not worry about that. So this is my story. I do not want to take too much of your time, because I would like to open the floor also for the questions.
Thank you very much. So, as you understand, the idea of this roundtable was also to make some inspirational projects to show you and to have those speeches. And unfortunately, we have only 20 minutes now to have the exchange. It's sad, because with all of you, I had so interesting talks before we meet today. So I will just ask you 3 questions, but very quick, so that we can have still a bit time maybe for your questions. First, a tricky question for you, Maxime, because Anna said involvement of men and so on, and we know, and we did mentorship programs where the idea is to stay amongst women, doing network amongst women. So what about the question of involving the men, and how come that they can be more involved in this topic?
That's a really interesting question, because
Quick answer, I'm sorry.
Quick answer, yes. Like 2 minutes, 1 minute? 1 minute, okay. No, I think the main subject is a huge contradiction, because in the same time we're saying that gender is a result, is a consequences of culture, of environment, but in the same time, as a man, a lot of people suggest me not to deal with gender equality because I'm a man. And that's an interesting point, because I have the strong belief that men are not fully participating in gender equality issues, and we need men to show and to involve themselves in gender equality issues if we want to make this fight, if we want to improve faster about equality. So that's what I said. We need to modernize our tool set I think that feminists need to ask themselves about what they're doing, about how they're speaking about gender equality, because if gender equality cause is moving not so fast, such as, LGBT plus cause, it's maybe because we didn't modernize our tools and our way to speak and to deal with these issues. That's why I have the conviction that we need men to be visible, but in the same time, men can't, take the women's place. And I often say that when people ask me to be a part of a conference like today or on a TV show, first I ask about the panel, about the gender equality, and if it's 50-50, I'm okay to come. But if it's not, I prefer to have a woman instead of my place. But when we have parity, when we have 50-50 on the stage, we need to hear men, because we need models. I think it's Anna, she spoke about role models, and without men, and I just want to say that men hold all making positions, so if we don't hear them about their responsibilities, I think we're going to wait a long time before having a strong and, a strong equality.
Thank you, Maxime. And if I may add something related to what you say before with the language in French. So in English we say gender equality. The word woman is not there. And I have experienced a lot of roundtables with the word femme or woman. And I try not to put this word, because if there is the word woman, the men don't feel involved in it. So when you say modernize the tools, maybe it's also related to modernize the way we talk about this, even though it's also another type of reflection and so on. But really, that's true. The way we talk have a great impression.
And that's why I never use ally. I think I say I'm a feminist, because we need to be, a bloc. We say the same word in English. I mean, we need to be only a strong part of this side of progressism, because in front of us, patriarchat is so, is so, strong of solidarity, and we need this solidarity into the feminist movement. So if we are divided into 10, 20 movements, it's going to be really complicated. And that's why I think that feminist men need to say that they are feminist and not ally. And I'm not consider myself as an ally.
Thank you, Maxime. That's inspiring. Anna Serner, a quick question for you too. You achieved really a tremendous work with what you showed to us. To your eyes, what are the challenges today still for women artistic entrepreneurs in the creative industry? What do they have to still tackle the problems that they have to face today and their challenges?
Well, it's not an fast answer to that, but I think what made my work successful was that I was showing that I was serious. And I think that is needed from the European Commission and the Parliament. And what I said was that I need the industry to cooperate with me, and if they don't, and we don't achieve 50-50, I'm not afraid of quotas. And by saying that, everyone realized, shit, she's serious. And that made them start looking for the women. And I think that is needed, because we are looking a lot to the women. What should they change? I think we should look more into ourselves. How can I change if you are a decision maker? How can I change, or how can we change the structure? Because women shouldn't change. And then you have all these mentorship programs and educations and blah, blah, blah. But men need that as well. So I think it's more of being serious and walk the talk.
Okay. And maybe then another question for you, Anna. Because you, in your work, you have a lot of, you had a lot of European projects. You told me 15. You run 15 projects, or you've been partner into 15 projects. And as the framework today of the day is also to say how is the European level improving my work and towards this important issue? What is your thoughts about this, about the European scale, that maybe, Marianne and Maxime, you told me that you would like to go to the European scale, and for now it's still an opportunity for you, but you didn't make the move, of course, on, I'm speaking here about European fundings, Erasmus and Creative Europe, so I wanted to have your insights about that.
It is also difficult to tell about it very quickly, but we have, as I mentioned, we were established in 2006, and at the beginning we started with projects in Poland, but co-founded by European social funds, and they were also focused on supporting gender equality. And so we started from that level, and then in 2015, in 2012 probably, we started with the European projects with international partners. And yes, we did, I think, about 15 projects co-founded mainly by Erasmus+. Not all are focused on gender equality, but in all we are thinking about gender equality. So this is a very important part of my organization. And I'm not sure if I answered for your question, but my last slide was about how we are inspired by the other organizations, partners in the European Union in developing our own programs in Poland, but also projects co-founded by various sources. So fine?
Yeah, thanks. Just a small insight. Some of you may know, but when you apply to Creative Europe funding, you can have additional points for the gender equality question. That is to say that your application will be noted on 100 points, and if you show that in your project there is something good for the gender equality, you will have 5 points more. You have to explain this, of course. And I've been discussing with a woman from the Erasmus agency who told us that Erasmus Plus projects also have this indication, not 5 points like Creative Europe, but it really tends to go on to what Anna Kedzirek told us before. It's one of the priority. So we have to do the move to go to the application, but the fundings can also be there for this topic. So we have 8 minutes remaining. Do you have in the audience some questions maybe that you wanted to ask to our panel? Just saying that after the panel we will stay here and you will have also plenty of time to come and to discuss, because it's so short. I'm really frustrated about that. We could speak all night long about that, but I give you the floor. Yes, mister. And you after? Yes. First we have this a man up, raising the hand.
Hello, so I am from European Cinemas, a network of European cinema, and we are currently investigating these challenges of gender balance and inequality in cinemas and how to improve it. I was wondering if you had some tips or answers. For one question is how to create awareness about these issues in general, because when you work somewhere, you can ask people to do things and they will answer you something like, but we don't have any problem here. It's everything is working properly. I am treating my employees well, or something like that, and they don't see the problem. It's not that they don't want to change, it's that they don't see why, because for them everything is working properly. And another question a bit related but a bit stronger is when you face opposition to change. So for instance, you say that everything worked like this before, you don't want to do anything about it because because you don't see why you have to change. And I was wondering how you create this awareness and this move to change when you don't feel concerned about this.
Well, first of all, who do you want to be aware? I guess it's within your own organization, right? And that's what I was starting off with saying, that you should ask the hard questions. Are you happy with the numbers of audience we get? And no one would say yes, because everyone would say, no, we have a problem. Then you say, okay, we need to widen the perspectives of the films. And then you say, I've been doing some counting. We are actually only screening 23% of women directors or directors outside France or whatever it is. So presenting their whining of not being happy with the situation, with actually giving them the data again that we are not doing well, and give them the solution. And then just nag on, and every time that you have the meeting saying, so did we count now? And you will be considered a bit hard to have in the room, but I think that you should also start counting when the numbers go up, because you will reach new audiences and you will probably get more numbers up. So it's just, as I say, start to act, because doing nothing will change nothing. So you have nothing to lose.
Thank you very much for the great panel. To add to the Anna's, my name is also Anna, so so I feel very included in the conversation. But actually my question is for Marianne. Marianne, thank you for the relevance on about entrepreneurship and funding for females, especially in the art sector, but I know it's the same in any type of entrepreneurship. I have friends that have struggled to gather funding in whatever sector they are. I want to understand a little bit more on your perspective and the research you've done of why that could be. And the question's twofold. Is there anything that differentiates the women that actually get funding from those that don't, or their companies, the sector they're in? And the second part of that question, is it a question of confidence that investors have in women, or is it a question of women knowing where to go for funding?
Thank you for your questions, very smart questions. The first question, what is the difference? We built this platform based on the women who raised the funding, because we always focus on the negative. So I had a lot of conversation, even with professors who did a lot of research on that. And then I asked them, what is the difference? And a lot of them, one of them was confidence and accepting a lot of no's, because you will receive, as a female entrepreneur, you will hear a lot of no, and you have to be able to handle that. So that is one of the things. But there is also bias, because most of the financial institutions, if you look at the employees, most of them, 5% of them are female. So you have 95% that are deciding on who receives funding. I'm also in investment committees, and when I see the difference when women come and when men come, and it doesn't matter, the guy looks a bit nice and he shares a story, all the guys say, oh yes, he's amazing. And when a lady comes with a really smart presentation, if she's shy, they will say, oh, she's shy, I don't know, think if she's will be handled that. If she's smart, they say she's aggressive. So that is why it is important that you can only change the ecosystem with the ones that lead, like Anna, who are really fighting for other women. So role modeling and connecting with women who have the power to change when you're starting, this is an advice for the ladies. We've created this platform in the Netherlands that we connect young entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, with women who've already been through these difficult situations. Your next question was? Okay, that's good. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I think there was another question, and it will be the last, unfortunately.
Thank you for your presentations. I wondered if you knew about fundings out of Creative Europe dedicated to gender equality. That's it.
You mean on a national level?
No, at European level.
Yes, thank you for the question. Indeed, there are many programs that provide funding for gender equality. I just wonder whether you're talking about cultural and creative sectors specifically. Any money for gender equality? Yes, there are plenty of funds. The one which is really dedicated to promoting gender equality is called, I think, Citizenship, Values and Democracy. Citizen Equality, Right and Values. But actually I would like to promote, I jump on the opportunity, the EU funding research tool. It's a quite recent achievement that we put on internet. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for anyone looking for funding for supporting their cultural endeavor in the European Union. It's called Culture EU, and this is a place where you basically put your search criteria, who are you and what are you aiming to achieve, and there you will get a list of all the available funding programs in the EU, and indeed there is a wealth of opportunities.
Okay, so thank you very much. The countdown is over. It's now red, and before it was green, so red means that we have really to stop speaking. Thank you, all of you, to having listening to this intervention, and hopefully you will follow the stories of all our panelists are here. Thank you very much to all of you. It was very inspiring, but I knew this. So see you.